Hello everybody and welcome to my YouTube channel. It's your boy JPZ, and we have a story today. Not just any story. Today's story is really about one of the most polarizing men in the UK. Tommy Robinson. His strong views on Islam and immigration have definitely made him loved by some and hated by a lot of other people. But we're going to talk about his story and literally everything that has led up to how he is today, to what he is today. And I'm going to offer my actual opinion of him at the end of the video because I did watch a few of his speeches. I watched him talk. I kind of wanted to look at everything first before I just went with how I initially saw him, because before I did research, all I seen was he was a massive racist and he was Islamophobic and he's super far right. And I did some research and now I'm just going to give you my story. Robinson was born Stephen Christopher Yaxley in Luton, England on November 27th, 1982. He said that his parents were Irish immigrants to the country. His mother, who worked at a local bakery, remarried when Robinson was young. His stepfather, Thomas Lennon, worked at the Vauxhall car plant in Luton. Robinson has also used the names Andrew McMaster, Paul Harris, Wayne King, and Stephen Lennon. According to Robinson, after leaving school, he applied to study aircraft engineering at Luton Airport. He says, "I got an apprenticeship 600 people applied for, and they took 4 people on." He qualified in 2003 after 5 years of study, but then lost his job when he was convicted of assaulting an off-duty police officer in a drunken argument. The officer had intervened in an argument in the street between Robinson and his then girlfriend, Jenna Vowles. In the struggle that followed, Robinson kicked the officer in the head as he laid on the ground. He received sentences of 12 months and 3 months, which were served concurrently. Robinson joined the BNP, or the British National Party, which was then led by Nick Griffin in 2004. When questioned about this by the journalist Andrew Neil in 2013, he said that he had left after 1 year, stating that he did not know Nick Griffin was in the National Front and did not know that non-whites could not join the organization. Robinson said, "I joined, I saw what it was about, it wasn't for me." Robinson was also involved in the group United Peoples of Luton, formed in response to a March 2019 protest against Royal Anglian Regiment troops returning from the Afghan War being attacked by the Islamist groups Al-Muhajirin and Al-Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Robinson founded the EDL, or the English Defense League, in 2009 with his cousin Kevin Carroll and became its leader with Carroll as a deputy leader. Robinson stated that he had been prompted to found the EDL after he had read a newspaper article about local Islamists attempting to recruit men outside a bakery in Luton to fight for the Taliban in Afghanistan. Although he repeatedly insisted from the early days of the organization that the EDL was against the rise of radical Islam, quote unquote, and that its members aren't against Islam, his rank and file were noted for including football hooligans and members who described themselves as anti-Muslim. Robinson was convicted in 2011 for using, quote unquote, threatening, abusive, or insulting behavior during a fight between the supporters of Luton Town and Newport County in Luton the previous year. He reportedly led a group of Luton fans and played an integral part in starting a 100-man brawl, during which he chanted, "EDL till I die." He was sentenced to a 12-month community rehabilitation order with 150 hours unpaid work and a 3-year ban from attending football matches. Robinson was arrested again after an EDL demonstration in Tower Hamlets in September 2011 for breach of bail conditions, as he had been banned from attending that demonstration. Robinson later began a hunger strike while on remand in HM Prison Bedford, saying that he was a quote-unquote political prisoner of the state, and he refused to eat what he believed was halal meat. A handful of EDL supporters protested outside the prison in support of Robinson during his incarceration. The support peaked at a turnout of 100 protesters on September 10th. He was released on bail on September 12th. April 2012, Robinson took part in a program in the BBC's television series The Big Questions, in which far-right extremism was debated. Mo Ansar, a British Muslim political and social commentator, took part in the same program and invited Robinson to join him and his family for dinner. This resulted in several meetings over the next 18 months between Robinson and Ansar to discuss Islam, Islamism, and the Muslim community, accompanied by a BBC team which created the documentary when Tommy met Mo. On October 8, 2013, Killiam held a press conference with Robinson and the EDL's deputy leader Kevin Carroll to announce that Robinson and Carroll had left the EDL. Robinson said that he had been considering leaving for a long time because of concerns over the dangers of far-right extremism, quote unquote. Robinson said, "I acknowledge the dangers of far-right extremism and the ongoing need to counter Islamist ideology, not with violence, but with better democratic ideas." When Robinson was questioned by The Guardian about having blamed every single Muslim for getting away with the July 7th bombings and for calling Islam a fascist and violent religion, he held up his hands and said, I'm sorry. Robinson also said that he would now give evidence to the police to help in their investigation of racists within the EDL. Robinson also added that his future work would involve taking on radicalism of all fronts. He said in his autobiography that he was paid £2,000 a month for Killiam to take credit for his leaving the EDL, a statement that which a spokesperson denied. Also in October, Robinson was arrested and held on the charge of having entered the United States illegally. Robinson pleaded guilty at Southwark Crown Court to using someone else's passport to travel to the United States in September 2012, and he was sentenced in January 2013 to 10 months imprisonment. Robinson had used a passport in the name of Andrew McMaster to board a Virgin Atlantic flight from Heathrow to New York. He had been banned from entering the United States due to his criminal record. When he arrived at the JFK airport in New York, customs officials who took his fingerprints realized that he was not McMaster. He was asked to attend a second interview but left the airport, entering the U.S. illegally. He stayed one night and returned to the U.K. the following day using his own legitimate passport, which bears the name Paul Harris. Also, in November of 2012, he was charged with 3 counts of conspiracy to commit fraud by misrepresentation in relation to a mortgage application, along with 5 other defendants. He pled guilty to 2 charges and in January 2014 was sentenced to 18 months imprisonment. Robinson's fraud amounted to over £160,000 over a period of 6 months. Judge Andrew Bright QC described him as the quote-unquote instigator, if not the architect, of a series of frauds totaling £640,000. This was an operation, he said, which was fraudulent from the outset and involved a significant amount of forward planning. He described Robinson as a fixer who had introduced others to fraudulent mortgage broker Deborah Rothschild. Rothschild had assisted some defendants by providing fake pay slips and income details. In June of 2014, Robinson was released on license. The terms of his early release included having no contact with the EDL until the end of his original sentence in June 2015. He was due to talk at the Oxford Union in October 2014, but was recalled to prison before the event for breaching the terms of his license. He was ultimately released on November 14th of 2014. Robinson spoke at the Oxford Union on November 26th of 2014. He told the audience that he was not allowed to talk about certain issues because he was out on prison license. He said, quote unquote, I regained my freedom of speech on July 22nd, 2015. He criticized politicians, the media, and the police for failing to tackle certain criminal activities because of the fear of being called Islamophobic. He said that the Wood Hill prison had become an ISIS training camp and that the radicals were running the wings. He also showed evidence of young children openly being recruited to join Islam. On May 10th, 2017, Robinson was charged with contempt of court for filming inside Canterbury Crown Court and posting statements calling the defendants, quote-unquote, Muslim child rapists while the jury was deliberating. Judge Heather Norton said Robinson used, quote-unquote, pejorative language in his broadcast, which prejudged the outcome in the case and could have had the effect of substantially derailing the trial, she added. This is not about free speech, not about the freedom of press, nor about legitimate journalism, and not about political correctness. It is about justice and ensuring that a trial can be carried out justly and fairly. It's about being innocent until proven guilty. It is about preserving the integrity of the jury to continue without people being intimidated or being affected by irresponsible and inaccurate reporting, if that's what it was. It is revealed in court that the perpetrator of London's 2017 Finsbury Park mosque terrorist attack, where Darren Osborne drove a van into a crowd of pedestrians, killing 1 and injuring 9, that Darren received emails from Robinson and read Robinson's tweets in the lead up to the attack. Robinson's tweet mocking people for responding to terrorism with the phrase, "Don't look back in anger," was found in the note at the scene of the attack. An email from Robinson's account to the attacker Darren Osborne Shortly before read, Dear Darren, you know about the terrible crimes committed against Redacted of Sunderland. Police let the suspects go. Why? It is because the suspects are refugees from Syria and Iraq. It's a national outrage, quote unquote. Another email read, there is a nation within a nation forming just beneath the surface of the UK. It is a nation built on hatred, on violence, and on Islam. Robinson responded on Twitter to the Finsbury Park attack, writing, the mosque where the attack happened tonight has a long history of creating terrorists and radical jihadists and promoting segregation and hatred. And I'm not justifying it. I've said many times, if a government and police don't sort these centers of hate, they will create monsters as seen tonight. Robinson's statements were widely criticized in the media as inciting hatred. Appearing the next morning on Good Morning Britain, Robinson held up the Quran and described it as a violent and cursed book. The host, Piers Morgan, accused him of stirring up hatred like a bigoted lunatic. Commander Dean Hayden of Scotland Yard's Counterterrorism Command said that the online material from Robinson had played a significant role in how Osborne was radicalized and quote-unquote brainwashed. Mark Rowley, the outgoing Assistant Commissioner of the Met Police and the UK's most senior counterterrorism officer, said that there is no doubt that material posted online by people, including Robinson, drove the Finsbury Park terror attacker to targeting Muslims. Robinson was arrested and later released in 2018 for almost collapsing the Huddersfield grooming gang trial. Robinson was arrested for a breach of peace while live streaming outside Leeds Crown Court during the trial of the Huddersfield grooming gang, on which reporting restrictions had been ordered by the judge. Filming some of the accused and talking about Muslims and quote-unquote jihad rape gangs. The restrictions on reporting was criticized by the far right, who claimed that it was a cover-up as the defendants were Asians and Muslims, and it amounted to state censorship. Following Robinson's arrest, Judge Jeffrey Marson, QC, issued a further reporting restriction on Robinson's case, prohibiting any reporting on Robinson's case or the grooming trial until the latter case was complete. The arrest of Robinson drew condemnation from far-right circles. The UKIP party leader Gerard Batten expressed concern about the proceedings and the ban on reporting. Robinson attracted sympathy from several right-wing politicians in Europe, including the Dutch Party of Freedom leader Geert Wilders and Germany's Peter Bistrin. On the weekends following Robinson's arrest, his supporters held rallies in London. At a demonstration at Trafalgar Square, over 10,000 protesters blocked the roads, and some even attacked police, injuring 5 police officers. Demonstrators prevented a Muslim woman from driving a bus, performed Nazi salutes, threw scaffolding, glass bottles, and street furniture at police, and they even damaged vehicles and buildings. The Middle Eastern Forum donated $50,000 to his legal defense fund. Robinson eventually appealed and was released on bail. He was interviewed on the Tucker Carlson show in August 2nd of 2018. During the interview, he discussed his 2 months in prison. He said that he was initially put in an HM prison hall where he was treated well. He was then transferred to HM prison only, where he claimed he was severely mistreated, including with solitary confinement. Prison service rejected his claims, saying Mr. Robinson was treated with the same fairness we aim to show all prisoners. He had access to visits, televisions, and showers, and it is totally false to say that he was held in solitary confinement. In October 2018, after a Syrian refugee was assaulted at the Almonbury Community School, Robinson falsely accused the victim of having previously attacked 2 schoolgirls. The 15-year-old refugee was dragged to the floor by his neck and told by his attacker, "I'll drown you," while water was forced into his mouth. The boy's arm was in a cast after it had been broken in a separate assault. A 16-year-old boy who was believed to be the attacker and who was interviewed by police and given a court summons had shared numerous social media posts by Robinson. On Facebook, Robinson subsequently posted a screenshot of a message from a mother saying her daughter had been bullied, and he accused the refugee of being the bully. However, the mother responded on Robinson's Facebook page, informing him that this was false. Robinson also made a false allegation using a photo stolen from a news article on a teenage cancer patient. The events forced the refugee's family to relocate because, quote-unquote, the level of abuse the children have received has become too much. The family decided to move elsewhere in West Yorkshire. Robinson may have breached court orders preventing the naming of the alleged perpetrator in several videos on Facebook and Instagram, including one that was viewed over 150,000 times. A lawyer said that in doing so, Robinson had compounded the refugee's suffering, adding, "Many people on social media have now viewed Mr. Robinson's lies believe them and have expressed their outrage towards the refugee. In January 2019, the refugee said returning to Almondbury Community School was still too dangerous. He described living in fear after Robinson's postings because there are people that hang around my house and video me on their phones. They call me Little Rat if I go outside. One of my neighbors threatened me outside my house just yesterday. His lawyer said Robinson's postings had made him the focus of countless messages of hate and threats from the extreme right wing and had led to a police safety warning. After receiving a letter from lawyers representing the boy's family, pointing out that the videos Robinson had posted contained a number of false and defamatory allegations, Robinson had admitted to his followers that it was fake news and that he had been duped. He said, "I have been completely had. How embarrassing, man." Robinson deleted the photos and admitted to posting a fake photograph purporting to show violence by a Muslim gang. He was warned about legal action for defamation. In response to allegations from Robinson's supporters that this warning blocked free speech, the boy's lawyer said, "Tommy Robinson thinks it is a good idea to defame this 15-year-old boy and accuse him of being the author of his own bullying. It is actually sickening." On May 15th, the boy's lawyer said that his client was suing Robinson for defamatory comments Robinson had made. It was also reported that Facebook protected prominent figures such as Robinson from the normal rules of moderation that would usually see a page removed after posting content that would violate his rules. Solicitors representing the victim were pursuing legal action against Facebook on the basis that it was responsible for Robinson's post, that it had given them special treatment that seems to be financially driven. On February 26, 2019, Facebook announced that it had banned Robinson from the service for violating its community standards and for posting material that uses dehumanizing language and calls for violence targeted at Muslims. Facebook also put Robinson on the dangerous persons list. On July 22nd of 2021, Robinson was found to have libeled the boy in order to pay $100,000 plus legal costs, which are understood to amount to a further £500,000. An injunction was also granted to stop Robinson from repeating the libel. Robinson, who represented himself during the 4-day trial, said he was quote-unquote gobsmacked by the cost the victim's lawyers were claiming, which he said included $70,000 for taking witness statements. On January 2022, an independent insolvency expert was appointed by Robinson's creditors, who included the schoolboy and the boy's lawyers, who were owed an estimated £1.5 million in legal costs. On January 27th of 2021, after 10 p.m., Robinson went to the home of Lizzie Dearden, a journalist with The Independent, and her partner after Dearden asked for his comment for a story she was writing about allegations that he had misused financial donations from his supporters. He falsely accused her partner of being a pedophile and threatened to return nightly. He was then arrested over the incident. He further published photographs of the journalist's partner on his Telegram channel, stating that serious allegations had been made about him. It was alleged that he threatened the couple in an attempt to prevent the article from being published. Dearden's article was published on March 18, 2021. On March 19th, Robinson was issued with an interim stalking ban. On October 13th, Robinson was convicted at Westminster Magistrates Court of stalking the couple and was given a 5-year ban from contacting them or referring to them. In terms of his donations that he received, in 2017, the American billionaire Robert Shillman funded a paid fellowship at the right-wing Canadian website Rebel Media, with Robinson receiving over £5,000 a month. In 2018, Robinson received £2 million in donations that were sought by opponents of his imprisonment. In July, Middle Eastern Forum, a U.S. think tank led by Daniel Pipes and described as, quote-unquote, fomenting anti-Muslim sentiment, said that it had been funding rallies in Robinson's support and paying legal costs in his appeal against his prison sentence. For several months in late 2018, Robinson used Facebook's donations feature that was intended for charities to instead collect money for a new conspiracy theory website and to fund legal action against the British government in relation to his own prison treatment. Within hours of learning of the charity feature's misuse, Facebook removed the button from his page. In November 2018, PayPal told Robinson that it would no longer process payments on his behalf, saying that, quote-unquote, striking the necessary balance between upholding free expression and open dialogue and protecting principles of tolerance, diversity, and respect for all people is a challenge that many companies are grappling with today. Robinson described the decision as, quote-unquote, fascism. The service said it cannot be used to promote hate, violence, or other forms of intolerance that are discriminatory. Before incurring an estimated £1.6 million in costs following the libel trial, Robinson filed for bankruptcy in March 2021 using the name Stephen Christopher Lennon. The official receiver was searching for concealed assets, including any which may have been put into other people's names. Former employees had raised questions as to what happened to money raised to support him. He denies misusing funds. All right, so from my opinion, I feel like I have to face the camera and show y'all. So when I did when I did my research, I watched his entire Oxford speech. He made some points. He was making, like, I understand his concern about, we have to stop these people from coming in and stopping and destroying, assaulting older people, and we have a concern that this is threatening the nationalism of UK, and I think his cause kind of loses validity when he does all this other stuff. Thinking about it, like when you go on national TV and hold up the Quran and say the Quran is an evil book, that doesn't really, like when you, like he said in his message in Oxford Union, I'm not against all Muslims, I'm against the extremist Muslims. But most people who support him are not going to make the distinction. They're not going to make the difference. They're not going to be like, well, we're going to separate the good guys from the bad guys. Most people who identify with him, I'm not saying all, most people are going to lump those two together and just assume that all Muslims are like that. You're going to assume that the most Muslims condone all the stuff that's happening. Like you can't make a distinction like that, because the people who follow you are not going to make distinctions, are not going to say, well, I'm just going to separate the terrorists from the actual Muslims. They're not going to do that. Most people are just going to lump all Muslims into one category. When you hold the Quran up on national TV and call the Quran a book, you're not distinguishing between the good Muslims and the bad Muslims. You're lumping an entire religion into one. You're saying an entire religion is responsible for all this stuff. When you lump it all, imagine if somebody held up the Bible and said the Bible is an evil and cursed book. Do you know how outraged that would happen? Do you know how crazy people would get? And then all the stuff he's done afterwards really doesn't prove his point like that. Just think about with the little boy that got assaulted. He was spreading false stuff about how the boy was attacking other people, when the mother said that's cap. That's not true. And he's oh man, I'm sorry. I just made a random assumption. I'm sorry, man. And then he has emails with the guy who commits a terror attack on innocent people, and then proceeds to blame the mosque for the terror attack. That's where you lose me. That's exactly where you lose me. Like I said, I try to be as neutral as I can. Like I didn't read no articles from no independent sites. I literally watched what he said himself. I tried to listen to what he said, and then all the actions afterwards kind of disprove what he said. So how can you? So you're against that, but then you got emails with the guy who committed a terror, who killed innocent people, and then saying, well, if the government didn't deal with these mosques, there wouldn't be people like this who would do it. Like, you can't victim blame in that situation. You can't do that, man. Like that destroys that destroys a lot of validity on your cause. Like when it's surfaced that you were talking to the dude before the attack, like trying to say, hey, you see what happened with so and so, it's because the police didn't do anything, and then that might have actually radicalized him to do that, saying that it's like hold on, I gotta read back what he said. Hold on, he didn't just say what did he say? Hold on. The mosque where the attack happened has a long history of creating terrorists and radical jihadists and promoting hate and segregation. You have proof? You have proof of that? And so that justifies some random dude running over innocent people? You know what I'm saying? Like I try to be neutral. Like I didn't come in, like I came in with a thing. I came in with like a kind of a base thinking. Then I listened to what he said. And the thing is, what he said, he has good points. Like, it's not like he's just all, screw. He's not all like, and he's like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he has points. But what he does later kind of disproves some of these points. Are you sure it's not all Muslims, bro? Because you literally just came out and, like, a boy got attacked at a school and you tried to blame him for his attack. You're using fake pictures online to try to paint him in a way that you want him to be painted. Like, that don't look too good for you, man. That doesn't look too good. You know, it doesn't look too good. It really doesn't. You know, like, I can see why people would identify with him, because people feel like their country is being taken over by refugees. But we can't act like it's only refugees that are doing all these crimes. You can't act like it's not just Pakistani people, it's not just Middle Eastern people that are doing these crimes. Large majority of these crimes are also committed by members of other races. A lot of, you know what I'm saying? You can't just, like, when you try to single out one group, it doesn't look too good, man. But anyway, that's all I got, man. That's really what I wanted to say. I just felt like I wanted to come in. I tried to be as neutral as possible, but then as I looked forward, it kind of like made me kind of cloudy, because it's like he has some points, like it's deserved, like these grooming, like people who are the grooming gangs shouldn't be here, like innocent children should not be getting abused, obviously, but you know, a lot of the things you've done afterwards, like you're coming, like you're crashing court trials and trying to sway juries, like that's not how you do it, man. But that's all I gotta say. I hope you enjoyed this. It took me a minute to make research for this, so I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for the support. I really appreciate all y'all. But leave a like, hit that subscribe button. I'm out. Peace.